Yesterday, we talked about this disturbing interview with George Zimmerman, juror B37, a woman who seemed to not have a very firm grasp of understanding of the evidence that was presented, seemed to be a very biased individual, raised a lot of red flags for me and for a lot of other people. And we talked about concerns that the entire jury room was filled with 6 individuals who had a similar lack of understanding of so many aspects of what was presented and of the law. Fortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. I don't know whether this really changes our outlook on the verdict at all. Maybe, maybe not. But 4 of the 6 jurors from the George Zimmerman jury have distanced themselves from juror B37. They said, listen, we were part of the not guilty verdict, but all that stuff that she said to Anderson Cooper, that's not what we think at all. And then here are a couple of quotes. The opinions of juror B37 expressed on the Anderson Cooper show were her own and not in any way representative of the jurors listed below. And then it listed jurors B51, B76, E6, and E40. The statement they put out didn't specify what specifically about juror B37's interview they were in disagreement with, but they made it clear that they said the death of a teenager weighed heavily on our heart, but in the end we did what the law required us to do. This, Lewis, to me, is much more representative of why I think that what falls under the list of acceptable reasons for a not guilty verdict, very much a departure from the things that B37 said. But maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you're just as concerned.
Well, I'm, of course, still concerned. I completely understand them wanting to distance themselves from juror B37, but this doesn't really mean that they didn't have some preconceived notions about the case or that they didn't have any form of bias themselves. I mean, overall, I think there's probably a better way to do things, and I think we learned that here.
You're still sticking to we need professional jurors, right? That seems to be your big thing.
I would feel much more comfortable going into a courtroom in any position if that were the case.
Let me suggest this, though. If you did have professional jurors who were in case after case, maybe for example, self-defense cases, don't you think that the preponderance or that their observations about how the majority of those cases go would start to create a different type of bias than you might have, for example, in the individuals that were involved in the George Zimmerman jury? Won't regularly being on a jury create a whole new set of biases that then we'd be trying to figure out how to counteract?
That's perfectly possible. I think maybe you could adjust for that somehow. Presumably, these people wouldn't just be on case after case after case. I mean, perhaps they are like sports referees who have normal jobs and lives and occasionally do this. I don't know, but that's a possibility, yeah.
All right. What are your thoughts on Lewis's professional jury idea? This is not unheard of. There are countries where you have professionals who are versed in the law who serve essentially as jurors. Send me your thoughts on that. David at davidpakman.com.